everybody. Thank you for joining us for What to Watch. I'm Jackie Jing.
And I'm Clint Gage. With us this week, David Griffin and Sydney Goodman.
Hey.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Hey, welcome.
You guys ready to talk about that wonderful Mr. Wick?
Yay, John Wick 3.
Oh, yeah.
Spoilers, everybody. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it, then come back here. But it's awesome.
Any fans of Jonathan out there that don't want anything spoiled for Chapter 3, Parabellum, here's your spoiler warning.
I think right off the bat we need to talk about the action. I personally thought that it was like a 12 out of 10. It just like knocked it out of the park action-wise. Clint, let's start with you. What was your favorite scene? There's so many to pick.
There's so many, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's the coolest thing about this movie, I thought, is there's so many different action sequences that each have different flavors. You know, there's like, they didn't sort of, some of the gun fu stuff kind of translated from scene to scene to scene, but really, like, the set pieces were so different that you can, my favorite one, not to say that the movie went downhill after this, but I think the highlight of the movie was right up front. There's the fight scene in this vintage weapon shop. And then the fact that we see John Wick like rebuilding a gun to fit like the bullet he picked, which I don't really understand because he picked a bullet off of a wall full of different sizes.
He picked another gun.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
put the bullet in that gun. Yeah.
But we get to see him like take
He's
apart a
decisive.
gun
He
and
just
rebuild
makes it.
another gun and listen to the gun and all of it for one headshot. And just like the thing that was great about that, the rest of the sequence that you see some of it in the trailer with like all the knife throwing and like the like, oh, are you gonna throw a knife? Okay, I'll throw a knife too. And like it was a funny kind of cheeky but also really brutal fight sequence that followed. But like the fact that they spent so much time for that first headshot of the movie, like I was sitting next to you, David. I old man clapped. And I was like, it was so much fun that they made such a meal out of that first headshot that it really set the tone for the whole movie of like, look, we know what we're doing here. You know, we know why you're here for John Wick 3 and we're going to give all of it to you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
They pay so much attention to detail, even the way they reload a gun. Like it's so much detail. Like whenever they're taking the time to reload, get the bullet, like they're actually doing it. It's not just like a magic reload. They have to take their time and do it. It takes time to reload a gun. So it's just cool to see that detail.
I do think every major character, in addition to getting some cool action to do, had a sequence where it's like, now let's watch Lance Reddick reload a gun for like 40 seconds.
Yeah.
It's like he, just shoot one guy and then like,
he's like sliding the slug in.
and then he moves. You know?
Yeah, that was a great scene. And just finally seeing like the hotel manager like do some damage. Like we've always seen him like so polite and reserved. And then it's just like he's rolling up his sleeves and just like, you're like, damn, all right, Lance Reddick, you're a badass. So.
But for me, that first action sequence in that vintage gun shop was, it gave you a little bit of everything. It was a really nice sort of, just intro to everything that we're going to get. It had like, that slow, brutal knife into the eye was like.
Just thinking
I
about it.
turned away.
And then like there's some
turned away.
cheekiness to it. There's some brutality to it, and some truly like inventive stuff happening. And setting like a comedic tone for some of the action.
Yeah, totally. Sydney, what about you?
I think it was the Casablanca fight. I loved the use of the dogs and, Halle Berry's there. And it was just, hearing you guys talk about the reloading actually makes me rethink it a little bit because I do think that what's so special about these films is kind of this certain amount of like romanticism that they put into like the weapons and like the martial arts and just like there's a certain amount of respect and like gravitas that you get from all the action sequences. And I think it's a little bit more absent in the Casablanca scene than the rest of them. But with that said, just having the dogs there and the waves of enemies coming made me feel like I was like watching the best video game movie I've ever seen. And so I don't know. It's just everything about this movie is so simple at its core. It's not overly complex. And this scene where people leaving, where they just caused a huge mess, and it was enjoyable to watch, and I loved it. And seeing Halle Berry bark at her dogs to go attack people was
How many people got bit in the crotch during that?
cross
Like at
biting.
least
There
five,
was-
right?
There was a good amount.
Lot of dudes getting bit in the crotch.
Yeah.
I would love after a guy was dead and shot.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the dogs would still just be going at the guy. Like he's dead. He's dead.
He doesn't know
He
that.
doesn't know that. Yeah,
He's
he
just
didn't
doing
know
his
that.
job.
Yeah.
Oh, Lordy. David, what about you? Which one stuck out to you the most?
I love one of the last fights in the movie. It's not the last fight, but it's the fight before the last fight, which is the one with the guys from the raid and John Wick in that cool glass room. Clint, I think you and Jackie got to be on set for that. Clint, you said you got vertigo from the set because you're looking down. And the glasses are
walking
everywhere.
across the second floor of a completely glass set and seeing everything move around. And there's like some reflections playing. Like it was trippy. It was weird.
No, it was
and then
a
the belt
really cool
belt
set.
stuff came. The belt stuff that the stunt team taught you how to do like totally came into play. It was great.
It was really. They were like, okay, we're gonna teach you how to do this stunt with the belt, and I'm like uncoordinated and just like awful at this stuff. So I was just like, okay, this is not gonna go well. But these guys are so freaking talented that they make you look good.
Right.
But I mean, to see it all come to life, like what we saw, and then to see it played on the big screen and the shattering glass and the raid guys. I mean, you take it away.
And that's what I love about the raid guys because they offer a different style of combat, of movie combat. You know, I mean, I'm sure in real life, as badass as Keanu is, probably couldn't take both those guys on at the same time. But I love that the movie didn't. They make him superhuman. They make John Wick superhuman, but at the same time, you see his age. He's a 50-plus-year-old guy. And the way those guys are moving from the raid, they can move quicker in a different way. They're smaller, so he has to use his size and his strength to kind of manhandle him a little bit, like, pull the jacket down and kind of wrap up his arms. And the way they...
There's a couple like WWE kind of
WWE moves he
like,
did. Like, he had to
powerbombed
find
at
a
one
way to
point,
beat
like-
those two guys. They were so much more athletic than he was. So I thought it was a really cool fight. The guys from the raid are incredible. I don't know if we're probably never going to get a raid 3, so it was great to see those guys in action.
That fight juxtaposed really well with the fight against the giant in the beginning in the library who got killed by a book,
Philadelphia
which was
76er.
insane.
Killed by a book.
He's a large
Jackie,
man.
what about you? What was your favorite?
Really quickly, I mean, I'm kind of tied here. It's either going to be the horses in the stable just kicking dudes or the motorcycle samurai. Like, that was just like, both of those were just out of this world. Just bizarre.
Yeah, the idea that John Wick can commune with animals to the point
Yes.
where he can be like,
Back.
okay, wait, kick.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
That was pretty great.
Aw, so much good action.
So obviously we've got 3 chapters of John Wick, and this one ends in a place where it very much sets up the fact that we're going to continue to get more John Wick movies. There's got to be a John Wick 4 where this movie, he's pissed off, right? So we gotta.
Lawrence
gotta
Fishburne's
see John
character
Wick
asked
4.
him, "Are you pissed off, John?"
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
So what are we most looking forward to? What can we expect from John Wick 4?
I think just
More action.
More action.
I don't want to say more of the same, but kind of more of the same. I'd imagine they'll build out more of the lore. It seems like every movie we're getting more and more of kind of what this underworld is, how the rules work. I mean, there's such an emphasis on rules and breaking rules and consequences that I imagine we'll get a better understanding of like where that came from.
And also too, like just like I want to learn more about the ranking. Where you got to meet this judicator this time, and she had her own type of gold coin, a little black in it, and she has her own rank. She's just very like militaristic. Like, hey, it's this way or the highway. It's not like it's not personal. It's like I'm following my rules. Like nobody is above the table kind of thing. So I want to learn more about the rank from the high table on the way down, and even further upwards. Yeah.
So literally, as you're speaking, I'm realizing we're probably not going to get that. I imagine it's going to end up being like Bowery King and John versus like this more established high table, like under the table situation. Like I actually kind of doubt they're going to go as far into the lore as I would like them to.
Yeah.
Because I find that so fascinating. But I think 4 we'll end up seeing more of like this new team up versus the traditional hierarchy.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're going to have to change the formula a little bit, right? Like they didn't close out the John Wick story, right? Like John Wick is still alive and kicking, and he's still got more work to do. But I do feel like the filmmakers kind of wrapped up this 3 chapters in like a formula way. Like I think they're gonna have to change it a little bit because the escalation from the first one to chapter 2 to chapter 3 has been like just this straight steady line.
Yeah.
Like we're getting more action, more stuff about the lore and the mythology of the world and all that stuff. And to just keep going on that trajectory feels like you're going to run out of steam at some point. So I feel like there needs to be a pivot of some kind. And if the pivot is just like more a straight ahead like action, like I've got one thing I need to do in this movie. Like I feel like they need to dial it back a little bit.
Almost
for
like
the
a
next
James
one.
Bond, where like every movie is a different mission that he has to complete.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And if this movie can sort of bring back, kind of like shrink the world again a little bit, and then build it out again from there, because they're never gonna stop making these movies. I mean, until they make a bad John Wick, they're going to keep making these movies, right?
Well, David, go ahead.
No. I just wanted to see what you guys thought about, I think what's going to happen, because we were kind of like projecting what we think could happen in John Wick 4, is that, yes, we're going to see the Bowery King team up with John Wick, but then also I think the director is really upset too. You know, she got like her hand sliced or whatever, and I think they're going to start like this giant rebellion against the High Table with the other factions, and we're going to see them like reaching out to all these different factions that we haven't seen. I don't know. That's what I'm kind of hoping for. But
I will say though, I think that there is a shared understanding with everyone who operates in this realm, including the director, that it's like, she knew she did something she technically wasn't supposed to do, and that this was the consequence. And I think that the Bowery King is the exception from kind of this straight and narrow pathway that all of these people operate under. So I don't know. I think that there'll be less people pissed off with the High Table than I think we'll imagine. Like, I don't think they're gonna amass like an Avengers style team to go against the High Table.
I could see it potentially going that way. Who knows though, right?
I feel like we have to get back to the Elder at some point, because we get this guy in the middle of the desert. Like, who is this guy? What's he doing? But he also has John's wedding ring.
Yeah.
And I don't think, not that John's mad at him or anything, because hey, he made that deal, he cut off his own finger. But I feel like we have to get back there. He's not going to let that guy keep his ring forever. He's going to get that ring back, I think.
Yeah. No, he's definitely going to want that ring back.
What
scene was wild. The finger scene.
And what about Winston? So the movie
ends.
Yeah.
The end. Yeah.
The movie ends with Winston shooting John off of a building, right? And obviously he knew that the suit was going to be bulletproof. Like, everybody knows that at this point.
Yeah.
So he shot him in the suit a couple of times, and John was even kind of blocking him a little bit because John Wick can block bullets with his
I thought
clothes.
it was blocking his face, like his head. Since
Yeah,
it
he was doing that like
protected.
cover up kind of move. But then he falls off of a who knows how many story building and hits
That was
everything
insane.
on the way down.
There's
Like,
nice
fire
awnings
escapes
he could
and-
bounce. Yeah,
Sure.
He's okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. That's, if you run into several awnings on the way off the building, you'll be fine.
It's like a cartoon. Yeah.
So Winston kind of made this deal so that he can keep the Continental, but he also had to kill John Wick to do it. Like, how is Winston going to be involved moving forward? He's still on John Wick's team, right?
I think so, because he had Lance Reddick's character say, like, well played, sir. He did give a weird look, though, after he said that, but he said, well played, sir. So I think that he knew that John was going to survive, because he can survive everything.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, I know, right? It seems like he can.
The idea that
I think he's still on John's side.
Yeah.
Because he's always helped him out.
I feel like I don't know though, when I think about the mythology of this world and like who these people are and just like how you would have the mentality you would have to survive under the table is I think it's something where it's like a certain professional courtesy, and like there is obviously a friendship between Winston and John, but I also feel like, I mean, Winston says it, like, it's not personal. I understand that like we're just doing what we need to do.
He gave him an hour head start in 2. He's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I got to kill you. But
And
I'll
with
give you an
this,
hour
I
head
feel
start.
like it was like he knew what he had to do in order to maintain what he maintain his goals. And so if John died in the process, then okay. But I think that he was just kind of like, okay, like this is what I need to do right now, and John will understand if he does survive that this is what I have to do.
I think there's a distinction between like Winston knowing that he's going to survive falling off a building versus Winston not being surprised that he's survived falling off a building. So.
Yeah, because we see the adjudicator come later, and she's like, his body's not there, and he's
Winston's
like, oh,
really?
And the adjudicator seems worried too. I think she'll play a bigger role in 4 because she seemed worried. She's like, look, it's going to be on both of us if something goes wrong. So she, for the first time, she seemed worried.
Yeah, that was the first bit of like emotion that she
really
got was just like, listen, if he's still out there, he's gonna kill me, and probably
Yeah.
you, but I don't know what's going on there. So mostly, I don't want to die.
All right, so let's talk about everything that we learned about the High Table in John Wick Chapter 3. First, the adjudicator. I mean, awesome character. Asia Kate Dillon is just like such a hard ass and scary.
Well, in a lot of ways, the adjudicator represents like all of the rules of the High Table, right? Like they're so honor bound and so rule bound to the point where they never even discuss sort of the morality of why John Wick broke the rules in the first place. Like nobody's talking about what an asshole. Was it Santino? Santino. Nobody talked about like how much he deserved what he got. But John Wick broke the rules, and that's the only thing that matters.
He had tenure.
Yeah. He did have tenure. Sure. Seniority counts for something, I guess. So, like, to have the adjudicator show up and just be this embodiment of all of the rules, like literally saying you have like, here's the rule that you broke, and here's the consequence for the rule that you broke, and I'll see you in 7 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the adjudicator is the tape from the ring, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she is in a sense a book herself, or like the adjudicator. It's just like a book. It's the rules. This is how it works. At the end, the adjudicator kind of starts losing a little quiver in the lip, a little nervousness. You can tell like, oh, things aren't going the way they should go, because I guess for several years, decades even, who knows how long this has been going on, it's all been working smoothly until now, until John Wick, of course, over the last couple of weeks has been messing things up.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like she's definitely an extension of everything that we've come to know about this universe in terms of like she's very transactional. And going back to what you were saying, Clint, with this like there's no nuance of like morality or what's going on. I feel like she fully represents this realm. I mean, these are assassins. I don't think they necessarily care about morality, which is why everything is so black and white. It's like, you don't do this, you do this. You don't do this, you do this. And I think it was Winston that said, like, the only thing that separates us from the animals are rules. Right. And very much the high table I see as the people who, I guess, I'd love to know how they came up with these rules and et cetera, et cetera. And, we saw a little bit in, not a little bit, it was a main point of John Wick 2 of kind of these coveted seats and what that means and how you get one. Oh, I just hit my mic. Sorry, everyone. So yeah, I feel like the high table is this governing body, and not to go back to too much, but with Santino being killed and they don't know they didn't know that Santino put a hit out on his sister to take that seat. So to everybody else, John Wick just assassinated the highest level besides the elder of government.
And then John Wick himself never even tries to explain that to anybody.
Yeah.
That's the thing that
Never defends himself.
That's the thing that I keep waiting for from John is like listen, can I just tell you guys what happened in John Wick 2? Like, because like
defend yourself. Like be like, dude,
I feel
this
like
is
everybody would
messed
be like,
up. Why
oh,
y'all
really?
coming after me? Yeah.
So
also, Braun is apparently the treasurer
yes.
of this
Game of Thrones
underworld.
Jerome
Was
Flynn.
anybody else like I was like Braun?
Yeah, Jerome Flynn's a
And I
great
was like-
actor. I was so happy
That
to
was
see him
fine.
on here.
I do like the very nebulous accent that he was throwing.
Right,
He's like,
yeah.
gonna be mainland Europe this time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not sure what it is.
And he's
what it
alive,
is.
as far as I know. As long as he
Yeah.
doesn't bleed
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
he's alive.
He was an
Live-ish.
interesting character too because we meet him in Casablanca and he's just representing the high table and the whole organization in a completely different part of the world, and his role seemed like we've sort of seen that role before. He felt on par with Winston and in that sort of management kind of top-down thing. The character that I was really interested in was the elder.
Yeah.
The guy
Who's above the high table.
Who's above the high
supposedly.
table.
Like, what does that mean? How do you get there?
I don't know. That's
What
You
makes
walk
him
in the
elder?
desert
Yeah,
and
he's
run
the
out of
desert.
water,
What-
and then
what was-
he'll find you.
This is another like really cheeky thing about this movie. I thought was like Jerome Flynn, the treasurer, was saying like, "Oh yeah, if you want to find the elder, why don't you walk into the desert till you think you're gonna die, then you walk some more, and maybe he'll find you." He's talking about like there's like a desert god that you need to go and find.
Yeah.
Like, there's a burning bush out there that you
Well-
need to go and find.
And he was
then
being literal.
He was being quite literal.
Yeah, it was very literal.
Well,
Yeah.
it feels very like Baba Yaga, right?
Right.
How it's like the last thing you see before you die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the thing you see in the desert, I guess.
Yeah. So that's a very sort of there's a weirdly spiritual element to how black and white and not morally gray the whole organization is. Like there's still this like sort of the mythology of it, and you literally have to sojourn into the desert to find the elder. Like so I thought that was an interesting addition to the lore of the high table. And the high table could literally be anything at this point because the way that they've escalated these 3 movies is looking ahead to a chapter 4, 5, or 6 or however many of these they're going to do. They've got so much sort of rope with us. Like anything is possible in this world. Like all of the things that they've done and all of the ways that they've sort of elaborated on the high table over the past couple of movies, like they can go any direction that they want. They've literally there's an elder god in the desert that's in charge of this thing. So it's like,
So one question that I do have is Angelica Houston's character. I believe she makes some sort of comment where it's like, we have an agreement.
yeah.
Versus like her establishment being kind of the same situation as like the Continental, which feels like it's under the jurisdiction of the high table, right? But it seems like the director, her little ballet training situation isn't necessarily directly underneath the high table.
Right. It's the same is true for the Bowery King. It seems like it seems like the high table is a big, important, powerful figure in their lives, but they're not explicitly beholden. To them. They each have to sort of
There's
pay.
like respect there.
Yeah, they
but
each have to
yeah.
pay a penance for what they've done, with all of the cutting that happens.
And Fishburne, even his character refers to himself as the king. He's like,
Yeah.
no, this is my
Yeah.
domain.
Yeah.
You don't mess with me here. But then in the beginning, he says like, oh, we are going to honor, the hit on John
Yeah.
Wick. So he's like,
Yeah.
we're not going to interfere.
Yeah.
But it does feel like there's some autonomy there between the
Yeah.
Bowery King and Angelica Houston's character, the director. It seems like they are sort of out from under the umbrella
Yeah.
of the high table.
But obviously not totally.
Right. Right.
And I'd imagine like that there's probably consequences, as we learned in this film, if you're not like following the high table's rules. I don't know. Like I'd love to learn more about that.
Yeah.
I don't think we will get
don't think
as
we
much
will
as I'd
either,
like,
yeah.
but
And if we don't get it in the movies, there is a TV series coming out called The Continental. And that's
Yeah.
going to be more about the different hotels around the world. But we might get some more of that lore and mythology explained
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that TV series.
I think we're going to have to, because as much as we know about the high table at this point, each of these movies still doesn't reveal a ton about it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? So like John Wick 2 dealt with a guy getting a seat on the high table, and we still didn't see the high. Like how high is this table? Is the table literally high?
Yeah.
They sit on high tops. They're at the bar.
It's high,
It's at the high top. They're at the bar.
They're-
Yeah.
So
it's
it's at
happy
the
hour.
bar.
Yeah, it's happy
Right.
hour. Yeah.
Do we think we're gonna see Halle Berry's character again?
Hope so.
What do
She
you
was
guys
rad.
think?
Yeah.
She was rad. She's kind of like a Winston, right? That was like what I picked up.
Well, not anymore. I think
Wow.
she pretty clearly resigned her.
I was
Yeah,
kind of thinking that when
actually.
she left him in the
Yeah.
desert, I was like, where is she go? Is she gonna go pick
Yeah.
up her stuff? Like, can she go back
You're
and pick up her
right.
stuff? Like,
I'm
is
sure
she
she's
now
going to
just
go to the Casablanca Public Library and find all of her stuff in a book, the
mementos
same way
and
John
the-
Wick did.
I think really what's going to happen is get into revolutionary times. And I think now people are getting upset with the high table. Lawrence Fishburne asking, John Wick, like, hey, are you pissed off, John? I'm pissed. I mean, they're
Yeah.
they're
That's
ready,
what
they're
I'm
ready to make some
thinking.
changes.
So
That's
does
what I'm
the,
thinking.
Ready to
does
make some
what?
changes.
However, their next big arc, because we were talking about how they kind of closed this trilogy in a way. Do we think that will end with this like revolution and like change in government?
Yeah.
That's
John,
what I.
so-
That
That could be a
that's
whole
what
new
I'm betting
trilogy.
on.
John Wick's
yeah.
going to open a bunch of portals, and then Jason Mantzoukas is going to come through, and I'm going to stand up and cheer. All right, everybody, it is time for our IGN Quick Picks. This week, we're talking about, what else were we going to talk about? We're talking about action movies. We each have 30 seconds to convince you to watch the action movie that we want to watch. So who's going first? Sydney, you going to go first?
I'll go first. So it is not an action movie. It's actually an action game. It's Hitman 2. You should play it. It's a great game. If you liked this movie, seriously, it's like a better version. There was a movie adaptation of Hitman, and it's not very good, but this is like what it should have been. And basically, you're an assassin, and you kill people, and you're basically unstoppable. It's wonderful. But if you don't want to play a video game, then you should watch Die Hard. But I don't need to convince you of that. But you should play Hitman 2, and it comes with Hitman 1, which is actually kind of better. And you should play Sapienza because it's the best level. But don't start there because you should be kind of good when you play.
Don't start there, because you should be kind of good when you play.
Those are tough games.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is a
Sneak
tough
around
game, but
and
it's
hide.
fun. Yeah.
You got to dress up as other things. And
Yeah.
Jackie, how about you?
Okay. Oh man, I was gonna write
Nope.
down more notes. Okay, so I'm gonna pick Mad Max Fury Road. I mean, at one point of this movie, there is a dude playing an electric guitar on this like giant semi. I think that's like enough said, right? Obviously Tom Hardy is a freaking badass. Charlize Theron is Furiosa, and she's just like totally kick-ass and like shaved head and just like beating stuff up, and it's awesome. Post-apocalyptic world. It's like an anime brought to life. The villain is so disgusting and creepy, and you're happy when he's brought down. That was really bad. That's okay.
No.
Good movie,
look,
though.
I mean, you had me at electric guitar on a semi.
I mean,
I think it was a
Yeah, you're right. That's all you
flame-throwing
really had
electric
to
guitar,
say.
too. I don't want to...
I should have just said that and been like, no.
It was a flamethrower, that's right.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
David, how about you?
I'm going to talk about a movie from the late 90s called Con Air. Con Air is a prison transport movie starring Nicolas Cage with the best Southern accent I have ever heard on film. It has an all-star cast featuring John Cusack, John Malkovich, and many, many more. Cameron Poe is charged for murder. He did kill some guys, but it's because he was trying to protect his girl. He gets sent to jail for a long time with the worst criminals in the world. They get on the plane, and the cons try to take the plane. And then all hell breaks loose. I mean, it's maddening. Some of the best action. You should watch it. Watch it.
Steve Buscemi's in that, right? And
Yeah.
he's the
Buscemi's
one
in
in the
it,
mask.
yeah.
I might
There's
even
so
watch that
many
tonight.
actors.
That
It's
works.
so good.
I'm going
They
to
hold
do
up.
one better with my
Oh, okay.
I'm going to the mid-'80s, to the year 1985, for a little movie called Commando. Arnold Schwarzenegger stars as a guy named John Matrix, and his daughter, played by Alyssa Milano, is kidnapped for some reason. I don't remember why, it doesn't matter. But he's a former commando who just goes on this kill-crazy rampage. So if you like silly action set pieces that involve lots of murder, Commando is you're gonna have a good time. At one point, he throws a lawnmower blade and slices a dude's head, like right. It's dumb. It's really dumb, and it's so much fun. Watch Commando from the mid-'80s.
That sounds great.
Have you not seen Commando?
I haven't seen
That's a
it.
good
You
way.
gotta
That's
watch
a good way to spend
No.
your weekend, I think.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's
Put it on the
a
watch
nice-
list.
it'll be a
everybody.
nice
some
little
I like
Yeah,
how
watch
the
it.
main
Okay.
character though, his name's John Matrix.
John
Yeah.
Matrix.
That's like John Wick times the Matrix.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I picked it.
That was
How about that?
mind blown. Mind blown.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us this week on What to Watch. If you want to talk at us, please do it with the hashtag.
IGN W2W.
Thank you very
David.
much. And you can find me on Twitter at Clint Gage.
Jackie Jing.
At Griffin DE.
At Sit So Good.
And that'll do it for us this week. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Slow zoom out. Pick up my pen. Oh, right. There's the coffee left.
Paper.
My phone is
Newscasters.
right there.
Harum,
Yay.
harum, harum.